Good afternoon and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are on day 184, and we're continuing with 1001 Arabian Nights. Now, we're hearing the story about this miraculous thing that has taken place where this woman was thrown into the river inside a container, which she miraculously stayed alive. And Harun al-Rashid, commander of the faithful, was so upset by what had taken place in his city that he sent Jafar out to try to find the murderer, or at least set Jafar with the task of finding the murderer. Now, Jafar, he wasn't a detective, and he had basically done nothing at all. And well, the caliph had gotten very upset with him when he came in, had done nothing, couldn't find the murderer, and so had condemned him to hang with 40 of his kinsmen. They were all set up in this outer courtyard the next day where they were going to be hung, and all were waiting for this handkerchief to fall, most in dismay that Jafar would be hung because he was a good man. When out of the crowd this young man came, he made his way through the crowd, calling out, "I am the murderer." And when he got close enough to Jafar, he claimed responsibility for all that had happened. And after he did this, well, I can tell you, while he was doing it, Jafar was inside going, "Praise be to the Almighty. Praise be to God." Well, in moments after the young man had confessed, an old man had called out from the crowd, and making his way into the center, had confessed to the crime as well, to this hedonous act of throwing this woman into the river inside a container. Well, all were in dismay, but Harun al-Rashid was not. Things just seemed to work out this way. He expected something like this to happen, for it always did. And perhaps it always does when one is truly in service to his brothers and sisters and to what we might call God the Almighty. Now, all were set free. The kinsmen, they could be gathered up again if need be. And Jafar and the two men, the old man and the young man, were called into the presence of the caliph. Well, the caliph began to question the men. He started with the old man and he said, "Who are you? And how come you're claiming to be this young woman's murderer? I don't believe it," he said. The old man said, Yes, hang me for the murder. Hang me for the murder." Now, these men did not know that the woman still lived. Was she going to make it? It was hard to say. Had she been, was she in a worse off state as a result of being thrown in the river? We'll find out. But the old man said, "No, I am not truly responsible. She's my daughter. I gave her to this young man as a wife. And with her passing, I have nothing left to live for. So please just hang me, for I no longer wish to be here." The caliph understood, nodded in acknowledgement for the old man's pain. He said, "Please sit. Let us hear from the young man now." The old man, he sat to listen. The young man began, caliph, being quite firm with him. "Tell me what happened." want to know every detail. The young man started. That woman that you found, she was my wife. I loved her dearly. And it is true. This man gave her to me as my wife. We had a beautiful life together. She bore 3 beautiful sons to me, and to her, of course. And she raised them with the most loving care. After some years, while my boys, well, they are still young, she grew ill, very ill. In the course of a few weeks, she was bedridden and could not rise up from it. She turned to me one day as I was caring for her, and she said, "My love, if I could but taste an apple, it would make all the difference in the world to me. If I could just but smell it, I would be able to die in peace." "My love," I answered, "no task is too great for me to undertake for you. I shall go. Let me bring you apples." And so I went, and I spent an entire day going all through the city, searching for an apple. One apple. But it is the wrong season, and I could find none. And I returned in the evening and told my wife that I had not been able to find an apple. And she fell into a faint, which it seemed she may not wake up from. So I determined then and there that I must find an apple somewhere. And one of the vendors had told me, "Young man, the only place you will find an apple is in the city of Basra. There's a gardener there who tends the orchard and gardens for the commander of the faithful, the caliph. He keeps apples in a safe place throughout the entire year. Go to him. He will pay you, or he will find you an apple." And so I went. Now, that day that I went out, I would have been happy to have paid a gold dinner for an apple, but of course I'd found none. So off I went. And it took me an entire week of travel to get to Basra. By the time I got there, the gardener, he heard my story, and he gave me 3 apples for 3 gold dinars. I took these apples, and it took me again a week to return home. And when I got there, I found my wife in a terrible state. She rose up, and I said, "My love, I've brought you the apples. Here they are." She looked at them as if it mattered not at all. She just laid her head back down and seemed to again drop into a swoon. Well, I set the 3 apples down beside her. I did my best to take care of our home, which I had been gone from for quite a long time. And then I made my way into town. Well, some hours later, when I am in town, I see a black man. He was a slave, and he was running through the town, and he had an apple in his hand. I stopped him, and I said, "Where did you get that apple?" That looked like one of the apples that I had brought. He said, Yeah, I got this apple from my mistress, and she got it from her, well, worthless husband, who had spent 2 weeks traveling to bring 3 of these back to her. She spoke some beautiful words to me and then gave me this apple in exchange, and, well, that is how I got it, he said. He went on his way. Well, I was dumbstruck and seized by an anger that I had never experienced before. Was this true? Was my wife feigning her illness? Did she truly have some other man in her life? I rushed home, making my way through the crowds in the streets. And when I got there, I went into her room and saw that there were only 2 apples beside her. This only confirmed the story that this slave had told me. Scheherazade stopped the story there. What a tale. What's going to happen? What's the truth? No one makes good decisions from a place of anger. Well, we'll wait to see what happens next. Hope you enjoyed the story. I hope you're feeling a little bit funny inside. The things that happen. Okay, we'll hear tomorrow the rest of the story. Well, the story that we could call right now the story of the 3 apples. Okay, thanks for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day.